In this video, we're going to assemble an inclined plane mechanism utilizing VEX V5 components in Autodesk Fusion before we go to build and test with it. In order to get started, we're going to work with an untitled design file. And with that, we're going to go ahead and add in a base plate. All my components that I have here, I've already gathered and ready to go. So I'm going to insert a base plate into the current design. I'm going to rotate our base plate down by 90 degrees and select OK. And we're going to go ahead and right click on the name in the browser and pin it so that way it won't move on us. We're going to insert a steel chassis rail. With that, we're going to go ahead and drag this up. And I'm going to go ahead and just have this rotated into a vertical position by 90 degrees. With that, we're going to go ahead and joint. I'm going to rotate around down to the bottom portion of our chassis rail, and I'm going to put my cursor on the bottom face. I'm going to hold the control key, or if you're on a Mac, you're going to hold the command key, and we're going to move right to the center of this opening, and we're going to select right there in that center. I'm going to rotate downward, and I'm going to find a spot here on the build plate that I can go ahead and click on. Now, to kind of make sure this is set up, I'm going to kind of offset it by 0.1 to put it right in the center and select OK. In order to have this standing there, we are going to have to insert a screw to fasten it onto. So I'm going to bring the screw in. I'm going to rotate this around. And I'm going to go ahead and joint that screw by selecting the circle underneath the screw head. Same kind of thing, putting my cursor on this top face, holding control, or if you're on a Mac, holding command, and being able to flip this and put the screw into place. I'm going to rotate around. I'm going to insert a Keps nut into the design. The positioning looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and choose joint, choose the circular edge here, choose the end of the screw. If I need to flip it, and then drag it up probably by about 0.2 just to show that representation. When you're actually building with this, you may have to put in more than one screw just to stabilize that a little bit more, but this is going to give you that symbolism. I'm going to go ahead and hide the joints by clicking on the eyeball next to the joints folder. That way we don't have to see those icons show up on our assembly. We'll go ahead and add another chassis rail in, insert into the current design. Let me free move this by dragging it upward, and I'm actually going to go ahead and rotate this down by 90 degrees and then spin it around by 180 because we're going to want, for our inclined plane, this is big surface here is going to be for our ramp, but we need this little angled side to be able to attach onto the flat face of our upright. I'm going to go ahead and select the joint command. I'm going to, on this hole right here, I'm going to select this point, so right on the very edge of that first hole past that large rectangular opening. And I'm going to find a spot, doesn't really matter, I want to find a corresponding position right here in one of these middle holes on the left side. And what you're going to notice is those holes are going to line up for us when we do that. Now the only thing is as I rotate around to the back side, I want to position this at an angle. So you'll see 200 degrees puts us down into the plate. 195 or a little bit too tall, so maybe we need to go ahead and take a look at 199. Still a little bit too much. 197 looks like it's going to be the winner, so as we're pretty close to getting to the top of the plate and where it can rest. I'm going to go ahead and select OK. From here I'm going to go ahead and either one of two ways. I'm going to go from this side. We're going to insert a 3/8 screw into there. Go ahead and we'll grab that screw. That's what happens when I'm zoomed out, so I can't really grab things very well. So let's go ahead and choose the joint command. I'm going to rotate around, grab underneath the head of the screw, and then go ahead and choose the edge of the hole. We're going to offset by 0.1. And then of course we can rotate around and be able to insert a Keps nut. So we do need one Keps nut in here. So let me zoom in just a little bit. There we go. And then let's go ahead. I'm going to rotate this thing around just that way I can see that face. Select joint. Select that circular face. Click on the end of the screw. Flip it. Thread it on about 0.2. And that'll be in good shape there for our inclined plane. Now this portion, to keep this from kind of moving on you, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add in 2 of these what we call angle gussets. And the angle gussets will be positioned down here. So actually I'm going to go ahead and rotate this around like so by 90 degrees and pull it up so it stands straight up like this. And what we're going to end up doing is we're going to joint. I'm going to rotate around, grabbing the bottom face, kind of what we did, holding control or command, selecting the center of the opening. And then we probably want to try to position this somewhere where we're going to match up with this hole. So may want to choose like right about here, or even matching up with the second to last hole. That looks pretty good as far as how we have it. The benefit of using these is that they're right, you know, they got a lot of spaces to be able to try to connect to. I'm going to insert another one into the design, kind of do the same kind of thing. This one here, even if you don't want to rotate around, you can always select that same spot, and I can always see where this kind of hole would be kind of corresponding to on this particular case. If we need to rotate it, we can. And if we need to, it looks like we might have to offset just a small amount. It's like 0.1. So then that way that we're not running into this chassis rail, we're right up against it, and we're right over our hole there. Okay, last part is going to be, again, we might want to add in a 3/8 screw in to hold these guys on. So these are going to be right here. So I'll go ahead and select OK. You're going to notice here's one issue that I'm already noticing is that, hey, these angle gussets are not exactly lining up. So we might have to redo this last one. So if I go into the joints folder, that last rigid joint, I can edit it. And let's look at it from the side. Let's go ahead and offset and bring it over until it kind of lines up like so. And now we're looking a lot better. Okay. So I already inserted this 3/8 screw. Let's go ahead and grab the head of that. I can go ahead and on top of the plate here, I can choose, or I can choose right about in one of these holes. Might have to offset it by, so you can see it's kind of dragging it up. So I don't really want to have an offset there. So that's why rotating around is really going to help us. But I do want to come this way by about 0.1. Okay. Go ahead and select OK. Let's go ahead and add a Keps nut in. I'll rotate around so I can see the circular face that I want to select. Joint. Select that circular face. Select the circular face on the bottom of the screw. If you do like I did, make an incorrect selection, hit the little X over here in the menu. Select that. If we need to flip, thread it on about 0.2. That'll be good. And what we can do now is utilizing our duplicate with joints. Select our screw. Select the corresponding hole. It's like right there. Might need to flip it. Looks like it's not going to be very friendly with us here. So again, sometimes depending upon some of the offsets and everything, we might have to kind of make some adjustments there with duplicate with joints. So I'm just going to go ahead and joint this in. Rather than fighting with duplicate with joints, we can always do that. Let's go ahead and make sure I pick the right face orientation. There we go. Flip, offset by 0.1. And then down here I can go ahead and add another Keps nut. Let's see if duplicate with joints will work for us on this one. So we'll grab the end here. So, not bad. I'm going to go ahead and keep with that. Looks pretty good. And the only thing is to keep this from moving on us, let's go ahead and add in the 1 1/4 inch screw in here. I'm going to rotate this around. I'm going to joint, grab the underneath side of the screw head. On this particular case, I'm going to grab from like this hole. I'm going to flip it. Looking at it from the front, I can offset it in this direction by 0.1. So the other thing is too, is you're going to see the screw head's kind of inside of the gusset plate. So if I go back to that rigid joint and say edit joint, I can actually offset that off just a little bit by 0.05, and that's going to look really good. And rotate around. There's the other end of it. I'm going to go ahead and insert a Keps nut. We're just going to use a long screw to kind of hold these guys together. So then that way it kind of squeezes and keeps the bottom of our chassis rail in place. Joint. Select the outside edge. Same thing here. We need to make a flip. Thread it on, maybe about 0.2. So we'll see if we interfere with our gusset plates. We don't, so that looks good. And this will finish up the build of the incline plane, and you'll be ready to perform your IMA and AMA calculations and go through the investigation.